2, 3, 4. All right, we're ready? All right. My name is Chiba Stearns. I am an animation filmmaker from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and I made the film Yellow Sticky Notes, Canadian Animateka.
You developed a very recognizable technique of your own. Can you tell us a little bit about the technique itself?
Right. In 2007, I made a film called Yellow Sticky Notes, and I was using those Post-it notes, the yellow Post-it notes. And I decided that I would self-reflect using animation on the Post-its as a way, because my life was organized by to-do lists, right? You know, today I to-do, I'm going to do something. And so I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to animate these to-do lists. And looking back at my life and sort of reflecting on big moments like 9/11 or like the Japanese or the tsunamis in Southeast Asia, things that were happening that weren't directly affecting me, but had affected me. So basically, I just decided to make an animation using nothing but Post-it notes. So just drawing on these Post-it notes. And yeah, it became something I really like to do because they're small and I can animate anywhere. And it's a good way to teach students animation from other countries. You know, here we were in Poland. I was in Poland before doing a workshop with students. So it's just become a kind of a fun way to make animation. And with the latest film, the Yellow Sticky Note Canadian Animateka, I had 15 animators from across Canada all working on Post-it notes and doing one day of their life where they thought about, you know, something that happened. And then they could take that to-do list and make it into an animation meditation almost.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the concept of animation, of meditation through animation?
I can't remember who said it, but it was animation is concentration. I kind of feel animation is meditation because you know when you're drawing the same drawing animation, you're doing thousands of drawings. So I find that when I'm reflecting and I'm thinking about the way that animation is sort of like coming out of my brain, like through a subconscious sort of level, the act of actual animation becomes meditative. Right, so it becomes a state where, like, you know, you just feel at peace, and you can let your thoughts flow through your brain into your hand, and actually just draw through a meditative process. So I like the idea of I sort of coined that term, animation meditation, because we want to sort of think about animation as a way of meditation, and that's what the sticky notes is all about. Because it's subconscious, it's a self-reflection, it's a stream of consciousness. I do straight ahead animation, so there's no in betweens. It's like I'm drawing the next drawing to the next drawing to the next drawing. I like that feeling because it becomes very dreamlike. You know, you can find this, and then the motion also becomes very kind of just magical in a sense. So I think the idea of that meditative sort of state of mind comes into play because I don't know what's coming next, right? You don't know what the next drawing is going to be because you haven't planned ahead. So you just let that sort of movement happen. And I like that. I don't like to plan too much. I like things to just happen. And so I think it's very important to reach a certain state, you know, and whether or not that's enlightenment. I don't think I've seen anything where I'm like, boom, like magical lights. But at the same time, I think I felt at peace. And I think that's the good part about feeling, you know, that sense of connection with the animation.
Animation in general tends to be quite personal. It's like expression of individuality of an author, like, but at the same time, you developed a collective project.
The 2007 Yellow Sticky Note movie, the film, it was very personal, right? It's looking at my life through these sort of to-do lists and things I was doing. And I liked it because when it went, you know, viral, it went online, it reached like 2 million viewers on YouTube. People were writing comments like, "Thank you for inspiring me to paint again. You know, I haven't painted in 30 years. I want to paint again." Or kids, you know, students would be like, "I want to make one, like an animation." So they would make a Post-it note animation and send it to me to show. And I'm like, "Oh, this is great. It's inspiring people." And so a lot of people would say that they also, they basically, you know, saw the honesty and they could kind of relate to it, right? The idea that their lives are busy, everyone's lives are very busy, and that, you know, sometimes it's hard to slow down and look at the bigger picture. So with the animators that I chose in Canada, I gave them the same challenge. Take one day of your life, just one day, you know, think back at some point and reflect, you know, and think about, you know, how you can take this moment and turn it into animation. And so I asked the same question to them, you know, be very personal. And some of the animators are very personal. You know, it happened one day, you know, they thought about something and it ended up, becoming a reflection of that one day. Marv Newland, who did the film Bambi Meets Godzilla way back in 1969, did a film called Annie Jam, obviously in 1984, where he brought together 22 animators from across the world. And so Marv lives in Vancouver. I live in Vancouver. So we meet often, and, we'll go for lunch. And I wanted to ask him that, permission almost, because I say, can I use the Annie Jam, and can I do one? I want to try this with the Post-it notes. And luckily he said yes, of course. And then he said, I asked him if he would want to do one, and he said, yes, I'll do one. And so what was great about Marv is that he's very respected. People know Marv, they love Marv. And of course, right? Because he's done so much amazing work. And he said, I'll help you get animators, right? So he was able to we were able to reach out across Canada and get his friends, some of my friends, to all animate. And most of the animators that we had made films with the National Film Board of Canada. Some of them have been nominated for Academy Awards, and Alison Snowden and David Fine have won an Academy Award for Bob's Birthday with the NFB. And they live in Vancouver, right? So it was really kind of fun because we had, people like Paul Dreesen, we had Chris Hinton, we had Cordell Barker, right? And so many amazing animators that came on board who have, been making animation for years. And so, for me, growing up, Cordell Barker made a film called The Cat Came Back. And I remember watching that every day on the CBC because it was before Sesame Street. And it was like so great to me. I'm like, oh, such a great film. And then I got to meet him and I asked him to do animation for the film. And he said yes. And I was so happy. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. What was really fun is that when Paul Dreesen sent me his animation, he was the first person to send me the animation. I remember flipping it and holding it in my hands and saying, wow, I've got a whole stack of Paul Dreesen's drawings. This is so amazing to hold this and And when you think about, myself, I'm quite young. I'm only 35. And, I've been making films for 15 years, but these guys have been making films for 30 years. And so when you think about the fact that they were so kind, to come on to the project and to want to work on something like this with a director who's not as accomplished or as experienced, I felt that was a huge honor. Because these are guys I respect and I admire, and they influence my work. A guy like Chris Hinton, he's just a master in his field, and he was retired. He quit animation. He was working on a farm, and he said, when I called him, I was really nervous, but he said yes right away. He's like, yeah, I'll draw, So I think that speaks a lot to animators, and how very kind and how very, there's no ego with animators, I don't think, because I think we're so self-reflectively in our brains all the time that, there's no time to worry about, things, people in live action, there's a hierarchy, right? Sometimes, the guy on top, is mean to the guy on the bottom, but in animation, it's just you sometimes, right? Sitting in a dark room and drawing. So I think there's no time for that. And I think that's what I appreciate about these animators is that they made time, and we all had a really fun time, and they could just do it anywhere, where they were. So Montreal, Halifax, Quebec, Vancouver, all across Canada, Calgary. And they could just ship me the drawings, and when I got the drawings, I just put them in a stack and then I just shot them. And it became something that was quite powerful, I think.
You are here in a kind of Eastern European trip. You've been before in Poland. Right. How do you find Eastern European community of animation admirers and authors? Right.
So before this, I was invited to Bobrowska, the festival in Białystok, Poland, and I was able to do a workshop with the students, and it was in Suprash. And so it's a little town, and it has a very famous art school, and I got to work with about 18 students, and they were they were so nice, they were so amazing and so talented. And at the end, when I said goodbye to them, I almost started crying because I'm like, these guys were so cool, they were so nice and just so talented. I was just so blown away by what they did. And I feel like the rest of the festival too, Bobrowska, everyone was so nice and we had a good time and everyone was so happy. Because I've never been to Eastern Europe before. This is the first time. And it didn't take me very long to say yes to coming, because I'm like, of course I'll come to Poland. You know, some of my best friends in Canada are Polish, you know, and I know that they're just good people. And so I just figured, you know, it's fun. And when I found out about Animateka and coming down to Ljubljana, am I saying that right? I hope, right? But I didn't know what to expect, because, you know, I've never been to this part of the world, but I'm so happy this place is like spectacular, right? When you look everywhere, it's just like a fairy tale, you know, like castles and like dragons. And I think from someone from Canada, where our history is not very long, and you look at the history here and you just see it everywhere, I'm just like constantly, you know, getting just bombarded by just visual, you know, this amazing. And, you know, honestly, the people I've met, I like animation festivals because they're all very like-minded people, right? They're all people who are kind of crazy because they're sitting there drawing all the time, or, you know, sitting in front of a computer making art. But at the same time, I think from animators that I meet around the world, we're all the same, right? You know, I think we all have a passion to create art, to make art, to inspire people through our art. You know, and that's what I love about animation festivals. So coming to Animateka, I'm like, oh, for sure, because, you know I'll meet some amazing animation artists as well. And what's really cool is that there are a lot of European animation artists. And when I'm in Canada, you know, I go to festivals, it's usually just American or Canadian, sometimes Mexican, but very rare that you see a lot of, sometimes there's a few European, but here it's like you're right into, you know. So, but what's really cool is that, you know, I find that we all have a connection, you know, because we all make films, and there's a passion for that filmmaking. And so I think that makes for good conversation. And everyone I've met has been super, super great, you know, like super nice. So Igor, this guy runs this festival perfectly, right? You know, when you think about the way that we can connect as animators, because, you know, for festivals, animators are usually sitting alone drawing by themselves, so it can be very lonely, very existential in that sense. So for us, the only way to kind of get out and to sort of, you know, socialize is through festivals, right? So he set up the festival very well, where we can actually, like, you know, there's meeting places, there's parties, and there's ways that we can actually connect. And I think for a festival, it's very important that the animators can connect with each other, because that can lead to collaboration, or that can lead to inspiration, or that can just lead to like friends, you know. It's like sleep on my couch, you know, when you're in Canada, kind of thing, right? So I think what's really cool about this festival is that Igor's done a very good job of connecting everyone, and all the staff have been very hospitable, right? You know, like I come here and I feel like I'm with family, and I think that's a very important thing for a festival. And not just that, but the films have been really brilliant, right? And for me to sort of feel the sense of like what Europe is doing with animation and seeing what's new and what's current, it inspires me to kind of think, okay, maybe it's time to change my mind a bit, to kind of focus a bit more on a different style, or to play with different styles. And I think so that inspiration with a festival like this is very important. So I'm very happy I came, because I feel like I can go home inspired now, and I feel good, you know.